Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Right then, hello and welcome to the stakeholder launch events of the Older Adults Therapeutic Service, commonly known as OATS. I'm Rachel Payne and I'm the operational manager for OATS, and I work within the Black Country Healthcare Partnership Trust, and I'm just doing the introductions today. I hope you'll all get a great understanding and insight into OATS. It's a brand new service that we launched officially last week, and I hope during the event today you'll be able to ask any questions, any queries you might have in regard to the new service, following a very detailed overview of what we're going to provide. And there'll be an opportunity for you to engage throughout the 2 hours we've got with you today in regards to embedding ourselves within the community that we're going to be serving. So just as a way of introduction, could you all please write your name, your job title, in which area you're currently working in the chat. So we've got a log of everybody that's here today. It gives a bit of understanding of which areas are being covered. That would be really great if you could do that. The chat's just at the top, second icon across. That would be great if you could do that for us. That would be wonderful. Could we move on to the next slide, please, Zach? Great. So just a little bit of housekeeping before I go through the agenda. Could everybody please keep their microphones on mute unless they're speaking? We've got a lot of people on the call today, and it just enables the, as my phone's beeping, all the messages are going, just to enable everybody to hear everybody in regards to the call. If you've got any questions, please write them in the chat or you can raise your hand. And if you've got any questions, then please do ask them. There will be a question and answer session throughout the afternoon, but if you want to put them in the chat so you don't forget them, that is great as well. So the agenda's on the screen. So I've done the introduction. I will be handing over shortly to Vicky. Vicky is the clinical lead for OATS and she'll be going through the model with you. Then we've got a section from Kirsty, who works in the Recovery College, giving an overview of the partnership working that we're going to be doing with OATS. Then we've got a question and answers and an opportunity for you to share any ideas in regards to our model and moving forward. We've then got a comfort break, moving on to some breakout rooms where we're going to be to do some networking in the localities. We've got staff from each locality within the rooms. So you'll move into that room and we'll be able to explore what is available currently and what we're going to be providing locally, who you are, where we're going to be, etc. So that'll be a good way of networking out there in the community. And then we're going to all come back together at quarter to three-ish in regards to feeding back and how we're going to keep in touch and embed all the things we've learned throughout today. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of what we're going to try and do today. Just want to say thank you for all coming. It's great to see the numbers climbing at the top in regards to who's attending. So I hope you'll all find today really useful and hopefully the start of new beginnings in regards to providing older adult therapy in the community, which is quite revolutionary in regards to what we're going to be doing. So we're all very excited in regards to this new service. So I'd like to hand over to Vicky, clinical lead, who's going to walk you through the new service.
Hiya everyone, thanks Rachel. Yeah, so the next kind of 20 minutes or so, depending on how passionate and talkative I get, I'm going to walk you through what the service looks like. So just a little bit about me. So I was looking after the kind of Walsall version of this team. So I may know some people on the call from when we worked in the talc service in Walsall. And obviously, as Rachel said, I'm now the clinical lead across the Black Country for this service. Next slide, I feel like Chris Whitty. Thank you. So from the 16th of May last week, we launched as a Black Country-wide OATS service. So OATS means Older Adult Therapeutic Service, and we deliberately have called it a therapeutic service, not a therapy service, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So you may be on the call and previously aware of the Therapy and Recovery Unit, which was at Edward Street Hospital in West Brom under Sandwell. You may have been aware of TALCS, as I said, in Walsall. You may have been aware of the Groves Day Hospital in Penn. And you may previously in Dudley have been aware of Birch Day Hospital that was at Bushy Fields, but that did close some time ago and there's been not an equivalent there as such. So all those services have now transformed into what we affectionately know as OATS. So we went from a sprinkle of talc to a bag of oats. So we like to have a very funny acronym in our team. Do you want to switch me over to the next one? Thank you. So how this model looks now is a hub and spoke model. So I'll talk about what that is. So in the OATS hub, which could be based anywhere, and it's currently based in Walsall, but that's just physicality. It actually covers the whole Black Country. We've got a team manager, a clinical lead, and some team administrators. There's 3 currently. And then in each locality, we've got a nurse specialist, an occupational therapist, an OATS nurse or OT, a psychology assistant, a therapy assistant, or 2, depending on locality, and we will have peer support coordinators. So some of those roles are new to the previous services, but they are might be a little bit different to how you understood them before. So for example, our therapy assistants have their own smaller caseload of lower level interventions and are starting to do some assessments. So very different to the healthcare role that was there before. And the peer support coordinator role is part of the national initiative to have peer support coordinators and have people with lived experience feeding into our services. So there'll be one of those in each locality to help set up support groups and to look after a very small caseload of people with lived experience that are giving back to the service. So again, I could talk about that all day, but that's probably a separate stakeholder meeting that'll come in the next couple of months. If you want to flip me to the next one. So who we accept referrals from. So we are an NHS service and we sit very closely between the Enhanced Community Mental Health team for older adults, the memory assessment services, so the services that diagnose dementia, and locality dementia services. So in each locality, there will be a service that looks after people with dementia. So for example, in Sandwell, Dementia Navigators, in Walsall, it's Pathways for Life. And we're yet to kind of discover what dementia services are out there and who are these people will accept referrals from for our dementia interventions. And that's a little bit what today's about. In terms of functional pathway, we will only accept referrals from the community mental health team. So people with anxiety and depression that sit under that functional pathway will only accept referrals from the community mental health team. So we are very much aligned with them for those type of referrals. However, that doesn't mean that for other mental health services across the locality, we can obviously provide support and advice on where to signpost people to for groups. So who is OATS not suitable for? So there's a list there. So people with a primary drug and alcohol problem, people with a primary diagnosis of learning disability, acquired brain injury, those under 65, unless they've got a diagnosis of dementia, or unless it's a very clear need that they have to access older adult therapeutic groups. So although all those kind of barriers and exclusive criteria sit there, I would always encourage people to have a chat with us and try and get away from a barrier to our service. It may be that we are not the suitable service, or it may be we know of someone who can meet those needs better. Next slide. Thank you. So we're asking everyone when they do refer to us. So we have got a referral form. If you're an internal service, so CMHT or an internal memory assessment service, the form is very simple and we only need about 3 boxes to fill in, which is the information to find the patient on Rio. If you're an external service, obviously we need a little bit more because that person may not be in our system already. We ask you to, first of all, understand why you're referring to OATS, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Make sure the person can make their own way to sessions or understands they have to find a way to get to sessions. And if they are accessing a functional intervention, they need to remain with the CMHT as their lead professional. So we're not care coordinators. And how I like to explain this to people is the interventions that we offer may destabilise people. So if you've got, again, everyone will laugh next, we always talk about this imaginary person called Barbara. So we'll use Barbara again. If Barbara is part of the CMHT and she's had an assessment and, attending an anxiety management group is part of her treatment, then she should remain within CMHT while she accesses that treatment with us, because she may destabilise. Talking about her anxiety in the group may make her a little bit worse before she gets better, and we can't hold that responsibility in OATS. If Barbara has been diagnosed with dementia and, is going back to the GP, and long term she's coming to one of our dementia information groups in OATS to learn about that diagnosis, she doesn't need to remain with CMHT because this is part of her long term recovery and there's not that risk of her destabilising. So for anyone on the meeting today who might work in an internal service, and if you're thinking, oh, does this person have to remain open to us or not, have that conversation with us, and I'm sure as we work together we'll start to understand why we would ask you to keep someone and why it may be appropriate to discharge to GP while that person's under OATS. So in terms of what do we actually do, because it's all very well we're telling you all that lovely stuff, but what do we actually do? So our role is about giving older adults access to therapeutic groups. So those group interventions may not be provided by OATS, they may be provided by other services within that locality, and we can connect them to them. Or we may find that they've got a need of an intervention that we can offer for them. So previously, people would refer to therapeutic services or day services for a very particular thing. So I'm making a referral for a dementia group, or I'm making a referral for one-to-one work in the community. For those that have referred to those services before, this is a new kind of quite a big culture shift, and I appreciate that. So we're asking you to refer to us in OATS if you recognise that person's got a need for an assessment for therapeutic interventions, which are groups. So we do offer some one-to-one, but that one-to-one is particularly around helping people to either get to the group or kind of prepare for being able to tolerate a group setting. So example, we'll go back to Barbara. Barbara may want to come to the anxiety and depression group, but she hasn't left the house in a year. So actually there might be some work we need to do with Barbara to get her to the point where she can attend the anxiety and depression group, but that is very much her need and we're helping her to work towards that goal of attending. If Barbara wants to learn about anxiety in her own home and doesn't want to connect to the community at all, then that need would sit within the CMHT or within psychology as part of that person's care, because our role in OATS is about that community connection or connection with a group. So the referral will come into the hub, the OATS hub, and everyone's referring into the same place now. So it goes into admin in the OATS hub. You can see the referral address there on the same form, and admin will check we've got the details we need to start processing. At that point, it gets sent to the locality of where that person lives, so Walsall, Wolverhampton, Dudley, Sandwell, and gets triaged by the nurse specialist or the OT specialist. And at that point on triage, we'll make a decision which may involve reviewing the notes and speaking to referrers, or it may involve a phone call to that person to determine, is that person suitable for an assessment with OATS, or is there some signposting work we could do right now to connect them to the right place, or is there some recommendations we could make back to the CMHT. So for example, it might be, it sounds like this person's just started a new medication, they're really unsettled, they're not able to tolerate a group. I've rang Barbara, she doesn't want to come to the group, but she might do in the future, and we might kind of give that staff member in CMHT some support to know kind of what anxiety management might be useful for Barbara. CMHT staff may not need that, or they may need that support from us, and that's what we're going to be doing over the next probably few years, is trying to offer those skills back out. It may be that we ring Barbara. Barbara's like, yes, I used to go to church, I used to go into Walsall Town Centre, I haven't been doing that, I've got anxiety and I feel like I'm on my own. okay, then that's the type of person that we would go out and do a home assessment. So if we go into that home assessment and again Barbara isn't suitable for one of our interventions, we may be able to connect her to something that is suitable within the locality, or we may be able to again give back recommendations to the CMHT. It may be that Barbara really wants to do the group, but there's something else happening in her life that she wants to prioritise. So again, it's about that communication, coming back to the MDT or coming back to the referrer and saying it's not the right time, but she absolutely is suitable for this group. Can you kind of let us know when that point is? Next slide for me. So this kind of just talks about the pathway that I've just explained. So there's lots of points for us to kind of discuss with the referrer and the person about getting them to the right place. So this model is really moving away from a very historical institutionalised day service model where somebody gets referred to day services, comes in and attends 7 or 8 different groups and stays there for 6-7 years. That has been proven to not be helpful to that person's long-term recovery. So what we're trying to do is get the person to where their long-term recovery is best navigated right from the point of referral. So they're an opportunity on triage, an opportunity on assessment, and at the very least, there's an opportunity on discharge when they finish the intervention with OATS to again try and connect them to something in their community. Next slide. Next one for me, Zach. Thank you. So this is arguably the most important graphic that you'll see from OATS, and I appreciate it's probably not very easy to see because it's shoved onto one screen. So the slides will be shared afterwards. So this is a massive culture shift across mental health services, and it's part of the wider community transformation to be a needs-led service, to look at what that person needs, not look at what service they fit into. So the person's in the middle, and that's where they should be at all times. We are assessing a person in OATS to see which type of need they have and how we can connect them to something to meet that need. So you might not be able to see the top bit, but it says person's type of need social, person's type of need therapeutic, person's type of need occupational activity, and person's type of need psychoeducational. So the person might have needs in all those 4 areas, or they may have very clear needs in 1, 2, 3. Now, arguably in the past, day services have took a role which has been more kind of social or activity based, which is brilliant and does help, but it's a point now where we need to recognise the localities and the offer they have in those areas. So if something is a social group or an activity-based group, yes, we might provide some of those in OATS, but those needs we should really be connecting people to things in their locality which are there for the long haul with them. That will free us up then as a therapeutic service to work more within the needs of psychoeducation and therapeutic, because arguably those are our bread and butter and speciality. And as I'm discovering over the last couple of months, certainly, there are lots of social groups, there are lots of walking groups, there are lots of groups like that in the localities. And we don't want to duplicate working out. So it might look a little bit different locality wise. For example, we might have lots of walking groups in Walsall. We might have none in Wolverhampton. And part of our role will be about trying to establish those groups, but not us running them and holding them and keeping them close in the NHS, but actually helping other kind of locality services set those up. So just to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour, there are groups in all of these areas. So you might be familiar with football groups if you work in Sandwell and Wolverhampton. So there's the football memories group. So that's getting a little bit of an overhaul with the new model. So we will still have social football memories groups, and we're hoping to have one in Walsall Football Club. And I've just spoken to someone about that this morning. And again, a version in Dudley, a sports kind of memories group. But that's a social group that we cannot hold the responsibility for in terms of staffing and kind of keeping it going. We want that to sit with the people in that locality. What we do want to do is look at a very structured cognitive stimulation therapy group around football that enables men to attend in particular, which we own and we run. So we're trying to now think about what are the social groups that exist that we can facilitate people coming to, but we don't own, and what are the groups that we can put in place that facilitate people coming into those groups eventually. So I suppose we are the first intervention that should connect them to that, or we can connect people straight to that if that's what they need. Next slide. So again, this is a little visual about kind of where we're going with this service. So previously, you might come out of hospital, an inpatient ward, or you've had some very intensive work with home treatment or CMHT, and then you would come to a day hospital or day services, which again was very NHS and within our NHS trust properties. And then what would happen is we'd discharge you and expect you to then go and build this life by yourself. So this model, again, it's not a new model, but it is a new way of thinking to do this collectively across the Black Country, is about facilitating those therapeutic interventions within the person's local community. So rather than coming to a CST group at the hospital, coming to a CST group that's at, I don't know, the library. And it's a library where when you finish a group with us, there's a coffee morning going on next door, and there's a reminiscence group already happening on a Monday that you can then start to join. So it's thinking about being there with the person in the community rather than them being in a clinical setting with us, and that bridge of them kind of living their life long-term recovery without this kind of hospital clinical setting. So almost like we look after them in the community and then leave them there to carry on, rather than they come to us and then we kick them out the door, which a lot of previous users of our services have felt very much like they can't be discharged because they're scared or there's nowhere for them to go, and they get something from our units that they won't get from out there. Next slide. So again, just come back to those discharge pathways, kind of the point of having this event today and lots of the kind of other things that we'll be doing over the next 6 months is about people, us learning what's available for people and getting them to the place, as I said before, which enables their long-term recovery. And I know for sure it isn't with OATS forever. And we're kind of a door that opens up that person to come back to their community. So they've had a period of intense support from CMHT, or they've been through a diagnosis with memory assessment services, or they've kind of been through crisis, they've been to A&E, they've spoke to their GP and they're really struggling, things like carer support and stuff like that. We want to be able to bridge the gap of that person going back to the community, not create another place that people kind of sit for so many years. So at all times, really, we're looking for how do we facilitate that connection with community in our work. Do they need our group first? Do they need to go straight to a group? And how does that happen? We really don't want to be a service that gives people a pack of leaflets with lots of phone numbers to ring. It's about us facilitating them, even if it's on that assessment, making that phone call, or as we've done before in Warsaw, saying, I'll meet you at that group, I'll meet you when you come out. So, that kind of commitment and that kind of hand holding, but doing the doing rather than talking about it in a clinical setting and then leaving people to get on with it. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's what this is about. So today it's building up those partnerships, and there might already be all these wonderful things in the localities, and I'm sure there are, we just don't always know about them as NHS services. We know there's gaps in the dementia provision across the Black Country, and there's lots of work going on about kind of support post-diagnostically for people with dementia. We have quite a specific role in offering the cognitive stimulation therapy for people, and we're looking at things like cognitive rehabilitation, things like the START program, which is a program of support for people who care for loved ones with dementia. So we will have a specific role within that dementia pathway, but it's for us to now learn and understand what's there and also be part of the voice of saying where the gaps are. We also do need venues to run our group. So if people know of venues where there's a lot going on in that locality, we need to know about them. And if we can run groups from there, that's fantastic. And as part of that kind of venue usage, it's looking at things like what can we offer that kind of organisation. So not previously, we still do run a support group in the Robert Parker Centre in Walsall. We run that group. We join a support group and we get the room for free. And the charity uses that as evidence to show how they are engaging with their local community, and their kind of statement is to give back to the elderly of Bloxwich, so that meets that requirement. And then we also rent a room from them for another group that we do, which again funds that charity. So that for me is a really great partnership and ones we want to have more of across the Black Country, really. Next slide. So right now we are brand new. We have a gap in our staffing and we are recruiting. So we have a vision, a very clear vision that is going to take us a little bit of time to get to. We have been running groups in all our areas up until now, and we're trying to review those groups to see which ones need to stay, which ones need to be evolved, and which ones do we need to roll out in other areas. The kind of point of what we're trying to do right now for everyone's awareness is get core groups up and running. So things like CST, an anxiety and depression group, and then look at what specialist groups that kind of locality needs. So I know in a chat we had with Dudley CMHT, the staff mentioned about they've got a lot of referrals for people who are managing hallucinations, and that a group for that would be good. And I would like to see OATS being very responsive to that and working with our psychology colleagues to develop groups for the needs of that kind of particular locality. So if you just flip to the next slide for me, Zach. The next couple of slides I will just kind of whiz through. So, and this is something that people can look at after the session today. So we're starting from, as you can see there, a very kind of different approach in different places. And what we want to get to is a less of a postcode lottery approach for our older adults. So they've got access to group interventions across the Black Country. And it may mean that if I live in Walsall or Sandwell, I can get to Darlaston. So if we place a group in Darlaston, it opens up for both localities. So again, the beauty of a Black Country model is we can start to hold groups that mean people can cross borders, because I live in Wolverhampton, but I'll be more comfortable going to Willenhall than I would to Tetnall. So that's, it's not about where your GP is from, it's about which is the local group for you to access. Next slide. This is where we're heading with the core groups, which I've already explained. Next group, next slide. Again, specialist groups that we've already got is on this slide. And then the next slide is about kind of specialist groups that we want to head towards and interventions we want to be able to do. Next slide. Okay, so that's a whistle-stop tour. There'll be time for after Kirsty's bit for us to ask questions about OATS in general. And I'll pass over to Kirsty now. And the reason that we asked Kirsty to talk about Recovery College is that we've done a bit of work, me and Kirsty, about how do these services fit together and how can we feed into each other and get the person to the right place at the right time. So I suppose using Kirsty as an example for other people on the call today to think about how their service might work with OATS. So I will shut up and hand over, Kirsty. Over to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with just telling you a little bit of information about the Recovery College. Could I have the next slide? Oh, have you got the slide up? Oh, there we go. Okay. A little bit of a delay. So, what is a recovery college? The easiest way of explaining it is it's recovery through learning, focusing on people's strengths and skills. We aim to help people build lives beyond services and live the best life possible. We operate on adult education principles. So we have terms, people are students, people enroll and they graduate. Everything that we do is co-produced, right from our operations through to our courses, through to evaluation. And everything that we do, we use the CHIME framework and we ensure that people connect, have hope and optimism, identity, meaning and purpose and empowerment. So in a nutshell, the Recovery College delivers a programme of courses, activities and groups. At the minute, we're pretty much digitally, we're delivering digitally, but we do have a little bit of outdoor, walking groups, gardening groups. From September, we hope to be doing a little bit more face-to-face, but from January, we hope to be delivering all three, a digital curriculum, classroom and outdoor. And we launched all across the Black Country on the 1st of April this year. Thank you. Okay, so who can enrol? Anybody aged 18 plus living in or that has a GP in the Black Country, but also Black Country healthcare staff members too. So that's anybody living in Samwell, Wolverhampton, Walsall and Dudley, or that has a GP in those areas. Anybody can access the Recovery College. That's people with experience of mental health or without, carers, family, friends, professionals, students, anyone can join us. Oh, next slide. You're probably doing it. It's a little bit of a delay here. But here we go. I was going to say I'll carry on talking. So this is a little bit of our future strategy and things that we're actually working on at the minute. So we aim to give all of our students 24/7 access to learning. And we're going to be doing that through Moodle, which is a learning management system, and it will enable our students to access video-based courses anytime they would like to access them, but also learning resources as well. We do have the Recovery College Hub, which is shortened to the RC Hub, which is a online library of resources, not just about mental health and recovery and well-being. It's also got community activities out there. It's got audio files, it's got videos, literally everything about living the best life, lots of info, lots of links to other websites. And also we have a digital inclusion scheme for our students, and we're also developing a volunteering hub. This will run along with the Recovery College volunteering scheme and our co-production and involvement opportunities, but the volunteering hub aims to support people in external volunteering opportunities in the community and within the trust as well. So that's something for the future. And we are also working with the community in the voluntary sector, and we want to do more of that. We want to, you know, develop what courses we run, you know, widen the breadth and the depth of courses to you know, give our students more learning opportunity. So we're looking at doing joint funding applications. We're looking at commissioning the voluntary sector to be able to do that, not just recovery college provision, but also the voluntary sector organisations provision as well. Oh, there's some questions coming up. So if people don't have the internet, I'll quickly answer this one. We do give people a SIM card as part of that tablet. So it's a digital inclusion scheme. We want to give people the access. If they want to come to the Digital Recovery College, we want to do that. So people can loan a tablet, and we will, give them internet connectivity as well. So just a few examples of our courses there. It's not all of them, just a little taste. Have a look on our website. We've got our timetable on the website. Lovely. So a little bit about our partnership, how we're going to work together. Okay, so as Vicky mentioned, we've broken each of the slides down by type of need. So this is social. So people accessing OATS can access our Recover Together group. So let me just give you a little explanation about Recover Together. They are connecting groups with a little bit of a learning outcome. It won't feel like, I'm told that it doesn't feel like they're learning, but each week we have a little bit of a learning outcome. And within Recover Together, there's Connect, the support, which again is like a talking support group but with a learning outcome, and we've got Recover Together Share coming, which is about people sharing their knowledge. And it's not just about recovery, it could be about how to change the tire on a bike. It literally could be anything, sharing knowledge between students, between people. So as mentioned, OATS people can access Recover Together groups, walking groups, gardening groups. We can also look at co-developing new Recover Together groups that are just around OATS. So yes, that's an idea that we're thinking about, and is there as an opportunity if needed. Also, along with within the Recovery College, we're all about signposting our students to community activities. It's that Life Beyond services, and we're going to be doing that as well. Next slide is occupation and activity. So again, anybody who accesses the OATS service can literally enrol and access Recovery College courses, groups and activities. We're aiming to have a Recovery College peer support worker, or they could be facilitators, come along on a regular basis to the OATS recovery through activity groups, or it could be any groups, where it will help, and that's where we can inform and promote and support people with enrolment, and answer questions and literally ease any anxieties people might have. And again, with regards to specific courses, there is, potential and an idea, if needed, if there's benefits, we can co-develop specific courses together. So co-produce OATS people, OATS staff, recovery college student, we all get together and co-develop courses that are needed. And then again, the third slide, type of need for psychoeducation and therapeutic. Again, any specific courses that will be of help to people and groups. We would love them to come and join the Recovery College, most definitely. Okay, we're here. Okay, so other areas of partnership working is around the OATS Black Country Hub. So the Recovery College referring or signposting people to OATS, or having that conversation and saying, we know this person, or encourage those conversations initially about referring and signposting, but having Recovery College information at the Black Country Hub for people. So that will be our enrolment forms, that'll be our leaflets. I've done some easy sheets for people that explains all about the enrolment process. So lots of information there. And again, Recovery College, we can, as part of the partnership, we can help OATS with supporting inappropriate referrals, people who aren't suitable, supporting the management of waiting lists and discharges. People can be informed of the Recovery College and encouraged to enrol. Either, while they're waiting or as part of the process. So we're there at the side. What else? Oh, and OATS and the Recovery College, our digital champions are working together. Our digital officers are working together. So that's other ways that we're looking at how we're going to be partnership working. This is our to-do list. Okay, just a few things. I mean, information at the OATS Hub. We're looking to present OATS team meetings, so we can, keep the OATS team updated. We would love OATS information on the RC Hub, on the digital online library, or a link where people can go to OATS information. So there's something there to look further into. And again, peer support workers, there needs to be some promotion training, whether it's the equivalent of peer support worker at OATS or the Recovery College support worker. And regular updates, keeping in touch, and information on signposting, both sides at the Recovery College and OATS. And I think that's it for the to-dos. I think that's it for my presentation.
Thank you, Kirsty. That was just an example, really, of some of the ways we're already working together, and going back to that model of need, looking at that psychoeducational model and that need that people might have coming to OATS. Again, if we can facilitate enrolment to Recovery College, it keeps the OATS staff and the OATS team free to really hone their skills on the therapeutic needs that people have. So yeah, it's just another area of connection, isn't it? Just conscious of time, because me and Kirsty like to talk, so now we've both gone over.
I was going to say, I haven't rambled on too much, have I?
No, I rambled, and then you took up.
Oh, that's all right.
Is there any questions people would like to ask now about the general OATS model or Recovery College? There will be time after the break where we'll go into the locality rooms, and if there's specific questions you've got about the locality, the way that Walsall works or so forth. So you can either ask them in the chat or pop your hand up, and I'd love to actually hear voices and see faces. Is there any questions on what you said? Anything you want us to clarify?
Can I ask a question, please?
Of course, yeah, go ahead.
If I understand correctly, you said that people have to make their own way.
Yeah.
So we won't be picking anybody up like we do at Taru now.
No, we won't. No, that is a change.
That means a lot of people we help, they won't receive any help because they won't be able to make it on their own way. So how are we going to address that?
Yeah, so we did a similar project in Walsall, and it is a concern, and it is something that we need to look more widely at. So similar project in Walsall, we were saying we had transport until 7 years ago, and then we lost it. I think there's a couple of points really. So one is about the value we place on these interventions, and I think one side of the coin is people do get to outpatients, appointments, GPs and so on. So if we make our groups accessible, so our assessment is in the person's home to start with, so that's obviously doesn't need travel. If there's a group that's accessible to that person, either by taxi, ring and ride, community transport, there's all these kind of other wonderful organisations that offer transport. Then that's one thing. I think we do have to wider think about the cost, because obviously I'm sure that's one of the things you're getting at, is about the financial side of paying for taxis or the modes of transport that aren't free. So that is something again that we would ask prior to referring. Have we looked at things like attendance allowance? Have we looked at benefits that support people? And one of the big things for me is about going back to that value. So if people are reassured that the group they're coming to, again, it's not just a group you're going to come to for the next 6 years, but it's a targeted 6-week group that is the same as going for 6 injections at the Manor Hospital, and that's the value we place on it. People get to the Manor Hospital for their injections. So if we place the value on therapies in the way we should do, people are more inclined to come. And I must say, in Walsall, and the team are here, so I'm not making it up, we did get some issues with transport, and there was issues with ring and ride, and we had to work very hard with families and kind of making sure groups are accessible. But we have had more people attend than we did when we had transport. So it's not an all systems lost losing transport, and sometimes it means the intervention's more valuable. But again, I'd really like to hear from the community transport organisations that do exist and how we have those partnerships, because that could be really helpful. Does that answer do you have any more comments on that? Was that kind of what you were thinking? Because I know there's a worry, isn't there, in Sandwell and Wolverhampton to lose transport?
Yeah, of course. I've been supporting now and then at Taru Group at Sandwell, Edward Street. There are some people who will get lost if they try to come themselves, that sort of thing. That was my concern. How would they have access to the service we provide? That was my worry, really. But yes, you have answered. We will see once it's in practice where we are.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's that one-to-one, not one size fits all, doesn't it? We have to look at that on a case-by-case basis, how we help that person access. But I do think we do need to look at what are the community transport links, and again, we have to make sure our groups are accessible. They can't be at the back of a residential estate that someone can't get a bus to, for example.
Thank you.
Okay. Was there any more questions?
Vicky, a bit of a follow-up question to that from Ruth in the chat
Oh,
about
sorry.
affordability of transport. I thought I'd flag it because we might not see it.
Yeah, I just shut the chat just before that. Sorry, Ruth, I did miss you. So yeah, I suppose going back to what I've just said, yes, there is a financial issue, but arguably our groups aren't long. So the longest group is 14 weeks, which is long. That's a span of 3 months. But that is about those conversations with people. That is attendance allowance that helps people access things for their care needs. It is about finding places that are accessible by bus and trying to figure that out with people. And we would hope that's something that the referring organisation has already had that conversation and tried to maximise that financial kind of pot of money for them to be able to access groups. But it is something that we do need to keep an eye on, and we have kept an eye on in Warsaw. And like I say, it hasn't been a massive issue, but there has definitely been people that couldn't access groups no matter what we've tried. So those community transport links are really important for us going forward. I'm just looking at the chat so I don't miss anyone. Has somebody put their hand up as well?
Yeah, you've got David and Deska who put their hands up. So I'm not sure who's first, sorry, but
I think David's first, I can see. David? Oh, there you are. Hiya. Oh, I can't hear you, David. Is it just me? I can see your mouth moving. David, are you on mute? Or is it just me that can't hear Dave?
No, I can't hear either.
I don't think, David, you're on mute. Are you okay to unmute yourself? I don't know if Sunday can unmute you because I don't hold the power to unmute on this.
It's really strange.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes. Coming in loud and clear, David. Sorry about that.
On the system, my microphone was not on mute. I'd caught the button on the microphone and turned it off.
Oh, bless you. I can hear you now. David.
First, I'd like to apologise for a long absence. I had a system crash.
Oh, bless you.
And it's taken until now to get it back.
Oh,
the
joys of technology.
I feel I've been misled.
Okay.
I thought the service was an older adults therapeutic service. And as an older adult by a long way, I thought, great, but it isn't. It doesn't matter how old a service user is, as I understand it now, if they don't suffer from some form of dementia, they can't use the service.
No, sorry, that's probably my mistake. So we are an older adult service. So if you're over 65, then with a mental health problem, yes. It's if you have a diagnosis of dementia, that would be any age. So it is an older adult service. That's correct.
No, sorry. You misunderstand. I am an older adult, as I understand it now, because I don't have a diagnosis of dementia, although I'll be fair, I suspect I'm getting there. I could not use this service.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could as an older adult.
So it's not just for dementia?
No. So if you're under the care of the community mental health team for older adults, so you would be 65 or over, with any mental health problem, you could access the service. Yeah, it's the age thing doesn't apply to dementia, so I think that's probably where I've kind of misspoke and confused the situation. So you could use the service, yes.
Well, I'm rather disappointed.
Okay.
I think the only person present here, from a quick look round, who's known for any considerable time is Kirsty. I was one of the very first public governors, which was then Sandwell Mental Health and Social Care NHS Foundation Trust, when it first came for administrators. I'd suffered a series of psychotic episodes, as such as the nature of psychosis. I didn't know I was ill. Fortunately, my half-brother, who had years of paranosis, referred me to a care and community service. Thanks to early intervention, and I don't know if you remember Kate Wilkinson, Dr. Kate Wilkinson, who was one of our psychologists, 2 one-on-one sessions with her over a fortnight. And within 3 months, I'd made a very substantial recovery. I will never be the man I was, never. But thanks to that care in the community service, after intervention, I have never had to recourse to antipsychotic medication. And I'm sure I don't need you to tell me how glad I am of that, because I've seen what it does to people. I've seen what it did to my brother and so many friends. Because of that, I commit a lot of my time to volunteering. I'm in my, I think, 3rd term as a public governor. I volunteered with the library service. Kirsten, remember, I volunteered with Kairos 12 Plus group. Now, this is the point. When Kairos 12 Plus group took over from, I don't know if it was then Black Country Alliance and NHS Foundation Trust, they were providing 5 care and community support services for adults, including older adults. There was no distinction. That's what there should be, to be honest, unless it's dementia. Numerous psychoeducational and psychotherapeutic services, mostly to Hawthorne's House, which was their headquarters. A lot of that was transferred to peer-led volunteer sessions, and I was one of the volunteers. When they lost the contract, the Black Country Partnership, the grant funding was handed over to the Recovery College. Now, compared to 5 care and community services and 12 plus psychoeducational psychotherapeutic services provided by KPG, you know how many the Recovery College provided? None. And for years, they have been taking that grant funding under false pretenses, fraudulently. And I was hoping that this service would at last replace that, because it's sad. I go back to when Positive Choices was decommissioned, and we lost 2 service people in 3 months with suicide because the support had been taken away. Fortunately, after the Recovery College took over the Houseford, only 1 to my knowledge committed suicide. But within months, 3 were in Allen Street, having not been there for years, because the prop had been pulled from under them. And the point is, why should this service only be for older adults? I've been through every year up to my 77th now, and I can't remember why I was different before I was 65. And as far as I'm concerned, sorry about this, I'm a pedantic bugger. This is ageism. It's discrimination. Why can't the service be open to adults under 65? Because they need us. If we're not talking dementia, if we're talking a general service, they need that support just as much. I mean, I'm still in contact with quite a few of the people who used to come to my sessions, one at Blackheath Library, one at Great Heath Library.
Yeah.
They miss the service. It's all right for those who have partners or close family. Yeah. For those like myself, I mean, I'm the oldest of my siblings, and I'm the only survivor. I've survived them all. So my parents have long been dead. Yeah. My aunts and uncles have long been dead. And there are a lot of us, like me, who live alone. And some of them, because of their illness, their anxiety, depression particularly, find it very, very difficult to make friends outside of, if you like, the mental health service user community. And they need these services.
David,
so can I just... only older adults?
David, can I just come in there? So
yeah, getting quick.
Just well, thank you for sharing again your journey of recovery, because that's really helpful, and I take your comments. And again, I think one of the things that I will say is there are services like us for people of any age. So we're not the only service. So, for example, in Warsaw, we have Rethink, we have Positive Minds, we have the Mind Hub, who do offer those group opportunities. So I don't know. We can't do it all because we can't do it all. I do disagree on some respects. I think there is a place for older adult groups because there is differences that are faced by those 2 sets of people. But I think people should have choice. And I think what you're getting at is this should be available for all. And with that, I totally agree. This service has been set up to specialise, but we will signpost people and connect people to the services of which you're talking about, which have that age kind of that not age part. I suppose where we sit is with the older adult community mental health team and the memory assessment service, but that doesn't mean it might change. And I think you've made some really good comments. I'm not the person that makes those decisions, so thank you for sharing them today. Is there any other comments you'd like to make before I move on to DESCA? I'm just thinking.
Yeah, although DESCA was before me.
Yeah.
Can we take it that it is the commissioners who specify the service?
I don't think it's the commissioners, because I think we are the lead.
Because I got on to them and given them help.
Yeah, I think
still have good
the argument would be, David, that there are the services you talk of already. So we are a very specialist service that sits within older adults. But you're right, there should be this access for everybody. And I would argue that our service is like us, but that isn't us. We are sitting somewhere else. I don't know if anyone else wants to kind of say anything on that, but that would be my response. But yes, Nick, you're there.
Yeah, I was just going to write in the chat, David, thank you so much for raising those issues and also talking about your own experiences. The Black Country Health and Care Foundation Trust have been very successful in the community transformation, financial bids monies, and I know there's a whole big project which is around primary mental health care, a new primary mental health care model. Wrapping around close to the GPs, etc., and working with people very, very early and offering some of those therapeutic interventions that you've been talking about. And that's some of the work that is actually going on at the moment. So there is that other work happening at the moment and new investment at the moment. But, certainly, some really, really constructive and good comments you've raised there that need consideration, certainly. That, we shouldn't just be, and that, there's a lot of that community transformation is talked very much about not being ageist as well, and not having those boundaries around, on your 65th birthday, you're entitled to this, and you're not until then, and there's lots of discussions about, and those are some of the things that Vicky was talking in the presentation, case by case, there may be where best to signpost people to, and it might be that you're not 65 and you might be seen it's because that is the best place to be seen at, and also the Recovery College is one of those ageless services as well, which I know you're feeling doesn't offer the same of some of the services that have been lost in recent years over in Sandwell, but there is certainly another big part of the community transformation in the Black Country around primary mental health care, which it isn't as far as we are with OATS at the moment, but it's another massive project that's happening within the Black Country, which is ageless. Well, adults, certainly.
I have concerns when you mention GPs. We were fortunate in Sandwell that at one time we did have one single GP who was very knowledgeable on mental health issues, very knowledgeable on mental health medication. Dr. in Walton, I don't know if you remember him. Unfortunately, he shot himself in the foot and had to leave. My GP, well, one of my GPs recently prescribed medication for me. The first been prescribed as Samuel General by a doctor. I refused to take it because I know, because I checked it out for a friend years ago, that the NHS's own website said it should never, ever be prescribed for someone with a history of depression. Now, his GP didn't know that. I told him I wasn't going to take it. I told him to go on the website, on the NHS website, Google it, and he didn't. That's the problem. GPs were advised to let people who are carers for people with mental health problems in Sandwell, to advise them about, we have a wonderful carer support team. In my opinion, that and Edward Street are the two best buddy teams we have. Not to say the rest are no good, but they are excellent. They never in a year had a single referral from a GP. You're throwing some of your seas on stones when it comes to GPs.
I don't know if it'll help. Sorry, Dave, I don't know if it'll help at all. If we can, we've got your details, but if I can get you linked in with somebody who's actually working on some of this work at the moment, and maybe if we can give you an update outside of this presentation and this event, that we can update you on some of that work and some of those plans. If that would be helpful to reassure you about some of the other work that's happening, perhaps, which might relay some of the, some of those concerns you've got, I would hope.
Well, okay. Erica, are you still there?
Thank you.
Erica, are you there? No answer was the reply. I'll email her and suggest that she contacts Jeremy as chair and recommends that there's a discussion on the restriction of this service to older adults be tabled for discussion at the Assembly of Governors next meeting. And we'll there are a lot of avenues. There's always time to talk, but of course, if you're in the chat, David. Anyway, I'll shut up and let somebody else get a word.
No, thank you.
Kate's popped in the chat, so that should be picked up. I can see we've got 2 other people with their hands up, so we'll just go to them and then we will take a quick break. Deska, I think you were next.
Yeah. Hi, Vicky. Thank you very much. I found the presentation really, really useful. I did join the webinar slightly late, and I know that Kate's going to share the presentation slides. It'd be really useful if do you have a matrix or a staffing structure for each of the localities? You may have covered that in the notes that I missed on the presentation, but because we're involved in a voluntary sector-led Sandwell Community Dementia Service, and we have 6 different organisations as town leads. We're the lead for West Bromwich, but Murray Hall Community Trust are the lead for Tipton. Raleigh Regis, it's Agewell. Wednesbury, it's Age UK. Smethwick and Albury, St Albans and Buds. So we'd really be keen to build links with the OATS team for Sandwell and to see how our pathways can be aligned and joined up.
That sounds fantastic, and hopefully I've kind of made a note of who you are, put your name to that service now, but hopefully in the breakout room with Sandwell you'll get to meet, have a discussion. The Sandwell staff can't be here because they're actually running a group as we speak, but Rachel will be in that room and we can kind of talk a bit more about the Sandwell individuality. That's brilliant, thank you.
Thanks, Vicky.
Leslie, you've got your hand up.
Hi, just quickly to follow on slightly from what David's just touched on. I'm the carers lead for Wolverhampton, and it's lovely to meet everybody on the call, but I'm really pleased to see Nick. I'm a member of the dementia work stream with Dr. Ram and a number of other clinical leads. And for me, what David has sort of touched on around referrals from GPs, and in Wolverhampton, a pathway, some sort of link with the memory assessment team. We have very low connections. I mean, we offer carers support in Wolverhampton. We've developed the Memory Matters service, and we've got very bespoke information for carers, and we work with lots of organisations. But it's really key that those families at the point of diagnosis and even pre-diagnosis, we're quite happy, if somebody's on a waiting list, whether or not the diagnosis is memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's, whether or not it's something else, it doesn't matter. There's a family there with a caring role, and we really need to be involved. But we're just really aware that, I've been to a number of their team meetings, and every time I go, because our carers offer is continually developing. Carers' needs across the country are completely different now to what they were before COVID. And so we listen to our carers, we look at the gaps. Memory Matters came about because we were coming across quite a lot of young people, a lot of men who were sort of going, I'm not quite sure, my memory, it ain't great, but I don't want to go to the doctors. I'm not quite sure what I'm describing. And some of it is stress, some of it is lifestyle, but some of it isn't. But, I just find it really frustrating because it's really simple to just link into our team, but it just doesn't happen.
And sorry, thanks, Leslie. And yeah, we've been speaking with the teams, the Wolverhampton teams, and looking at the pathways around, not just in the memory assessment service, but in the CMHT. I'll be speaking again with my next line manager today about Memory Matters as well. It's really, really high on the agenda, and that's what this work's all about as well. Is that so long the NHS has worked very much within the NHS And when we've set up in the past more working closely with the third sector, the biggest thing, we were absolutely shocked and stunned about how much there is out there that can help our people we're working with, and not just dropping them as soon as we've done our work. There's so much, and this is what the emphasis of this work is all about, really. It's integrative.
We're quite individual because we're actually part of adult social care. So we complete all of the Care Act compliant carers conversations, and we're linked with all of the social work teams.
Absolutely.
So if there is if we've got a carer who's really struggling because of the needs of the person that they're looking after, we've got those connections and we can link immediately in. I mean, I know a lot of the other authorities, I'm Walsall, Birmingham. I am the carers lead, so I attend the ADAS carers group, and I'm aware that their carers offer is more in the sort of voluntary sector, or they may have a commissioned service that offer that. But we're in this really, really, really sort of key. We're in a position where we can support both the carer and the cared for person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, Leslie, I'm not no kind of secret about this. So lots of my family members have been through Wolverhampton services and Stafford services and Walsall services, and I've seen the difference post-diagnostically in dementia for carers and families firsthand. I'm very passionate about that, and I think what we must now do is figure out who does what the gaps are, what OATS can do, because there's no point running carers courses say in Wolverhampton if they're already happening. There's no point us doing that in Sandwell if they're already happening. What is the gaps for carers? Where are they? What can we do? What's already being done? I don't want us to duplicate work. There's lots of good work already happening across the Black Country, but we can either connect people to that good work or we can do that good work. So I think these conversations now, and you're right, we have to now become that bridge, and we did do that in Walsall, and we did do a good job with it. We were all sat around the table and one patient will be discussed across all the services, and that's the work that I'm hoping we can start to connect in the rest of the Black Country, because you're right, we can't rely on one person making referrals, because that's just not going to happen, is it? We've got to make the referrals less scary for all. But thank you for your comments, and I know we're going to meet anyway, so that's great.
Thank you.
Shall we take a break? I'm just conscious we've had a really good discussion, but it is past. I think we're back now then, so just thumbs up, or you can pop in the chat if you're back. And I think we've got a list of everyone and what locality room you should be in. Lovely, people are back now, that's great. I think I'm taking the Wolverhampton room, Rachel's taking Sandwell, we've got our lovely Ruth taking the Walsall one, and Janine taking Dudley. So there'll be a member of the OATS team in each room. Just a reminder to people, if you do want to capture anything, emails, or kind of make any plans to catch up with anyone, you can pop it in the chat in your breakout room and that'll all be saved. So I think we're ready to move, Sunday. So to say to everyone really that what we would hope to do in the next 12 months is have a face-to-face kind of networking event in each locality. So this was today to just really launch the model, but we will have what we call affectionately cake and community events in each locality. Are we all back then?
Oh.
Okay. Shall I just pick up on the question? Just a reminder to mute if you're not talking, just to stop the feedback. I'll pick up on a question that Kate alerted me to. Besides, but now there's a million things in the chat. People not being able to get on.
Can I just interrupt you there? None of the Walsall locality are back. And the only reason I know is that Nadine's asking me.
Oh, okay. Can we pull the Walsall locality back, Sunday? Is that something that's in progress?
Yes, I'm just having a look at that right now, because they should just automatically close. So I think I might go into the Walsall group.
big thank you to Sandeep, because we've had some technical issues, and he's been really coping with it well.
Bless you, Sandeep. I'll answer the question then while we wait for the Warsaw lot to come back in, because it's being recorded anyway. So we're recording demographic information of those attending to make sure we are supporting access for those most marginalised and need of support. Yes, we do record the demographic information and we can access that. And what we're in the midst of doing is setting up a kind of dashboard. So from our information systems that tells us the key things we want to know about our service. So that is one of the things that's on my list here, to work with business intelligence, as they know, BI in the NHS world, to start recording it. We already record that information, but to start pulling it together so we can see, because another thing that is apparent is some of the language barriers that stop people accessing therapeutic services. You can't just ask an interpreter to interpret therapy. That doesn't work. You need the therapy person to be able to speak that language, ideally. So that's something else we want to kind of be aware of and start to figure out how we break down that barrier. One of the things that's become apparent, and this is more for comms as well, and I don't know if Nick's still on the call, but for yourself, Rachel, is there's a lot of people here that weren't aware of the memory assessment service kind of redesign that's come in, and they would really like to feed in some of their experiences, because obviously again, it's the same story really. There's a real feeling that post-diagnostically there's a gap in the Black Country, which we know, and how we get that diagnosis right for people from memory assessment services. And now there's conversations that are happening, but I think it's reassuring for everyone on this call to know we're trying to get that better and to kind of make them feel included. So I suppose everyone on this call might be some key people to come to those future workshops.
We were locked in a room.
You're back. Warsaw people were stuck.
Yeah, we all jumped out and we re-entered the meeting. We did it that way in the end.
Oh, bless you.
Because the door was shut to come back in.
I just, while you were gone, guys, I just answered a question about recording demographics and said, yes, we are. And we were just talking about there's a lot of feeling about the post-diagnostic gaps in dementia services, and how I kind of let people know about the MAS transformation and the MAS work. And there's lots of people on this call that are really keen to know more about that, because kind of what we're doing post-diagnostically in the Black Country feeds into the changes we might make in MAS. So yeah, there's a bit of a sideline really.
I've just on that, I know that I was speaking to my line manager about getting a comms out, because I know that Wolverhampton were asking for an update on what's happening with memory assessment service, and I was saying it's better if we can get a comms for all of the boroughs, you know, the same comms, because we had that memory assessment workshop where we had a lot of partners involved in that. So it's to get a comms out on that really. So hopefully that will feed into what you just said, Vicky.
Brilliant. Yeah. Is there anything else while we're back together? Because I've got 3 minutes till this event is meant to end. Is there any other comments or anything people want to raise? Again, because of the time, we might not be able to bottom it out, but at least we can collate it and try and deal with it after the event. David, is that a new hand? Do you want to go ahead?
It's a new hand, a clean hand.
Clean hand. Go ahead with your clean hand.
Please forgive me. I am old. I do get confused. And I got more confused as this lot's gone on. Is there anybody authorised to make a definitive statement as to whether or not this service will or will not be exclusively available to those suffering from dementia? Because going to DESCA, it will. But according to a speaker earlier on, it will be open to older adults regardless of their condition.
I can definitively make that statement as clinical lead that we will be open to older adults, which are people that access the community mental health service, people that are being diagnosed with dementia. So I think rather than seeing it as an age, it's where that person is currently sitting, David. But no, we are not an exclusive dementia service. That is not correct.
Good.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I would really like it to be called the Older Adults Dementia Service.
I agree. That's not what we
like
are.
it to
We're
be
not.
plugged in with a Bud's still out up and going.
Yeah, that's not what we are. So I can say that.
No, I lost contact with Bud's because I would have liked it if it was exclusively a dementia service. I really would have liked their representatives to be here.
100%. No, I agree. No, that's not what we are.
Anyway, I have to.
And I've been recorded saying that now.
Gotcha.
Is there any other questions or comments from anyone before we close today? Just to say a massive thank you. Apologies for the technical issues. Lots and lots of things and contacts and emails will be sent after today to try and build up those relationships that hopefully we've started. Lovely. Just coming back to the chat. No, nothing else there. Lovely. I think we can close the session then. Have a great day. And look forward to seeing
well done
everyone
all.
more.
Thank you.
Well done,
Thanks,
everyone
guys.
who's presented, and well done to everyone who's been involved.
Yay.
Really, really helpful. Fantastic. Well done.
Thank you very much.
See ya.
Next time.
Cheers. See you all soon.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.